This summer, a local drama teacher is travelling to public parks around the country, including Southampton, for a very particular performance. He'll recite a one-man dramatisation of the whole of the Gospel of Mark from the Bible. He's learnt the entirety of Mark off by heart, all 11,000 words of it, and he intends to perform it in the open air without props, scripts or scenery. And here to tell us more is the man himself, Stefan Smart. Stefan, thanks very much for coming in. What on earth possessed you to do this?
Oh, well, I've just been as a drama teacher and an English teacher for many years. I've been telling stories to classes for many years and just enjoying holding a captive audience in that way and holding them, if you like, in the palm of my hand. And it occurred to me that I'd love to do this with what I think is probably the greatest story ever told. And so a few years back, I started learning the whole of Mark's Gospel and started performing it in various locations. But this is the first time I'm doing it in the open air.
Hang on, a few years ago you started learning the
whole about 8 years. I've done it in bits. It has
wow.
I haven't taken 8 years from beginning to end. I've taken breaks, but yeah, okay. It's taken a while.
I can just imagine you 8 years studying. And so why the Gospel of Mark? I mean, you said you think it's a great story. What is it about for people who don't know?
Well, it's about the story of Jesus from the time he began his teaching right through to his death and then through to his resurrection. And the reason why I chose that particular version of the story was because it is the most exciting. It's full of action from beginning to end. It's unrelenting. It's also full of incredibly moving moments and even a dash of humour. It's got so much to it. As a dramatic piece, it's by far the best one to choose.
A lot of people kind of would be put off, I think, by the notion that this is a kind of biblical text. It's not, going to church and the Bible are not, that cool at the moment. How are you going to kind of convert people, as it were, not to Christianity, but just to your performance?
Well, I think they'll see. First of all, I've set it in the 21st century, so I'm the only actor acting a series of parts, but the main part is the narrator figure, who's a 21st century cheeky chappy. He's a Cockney, so he'll be immediately relevant, I think, to people. The story itself, though, even though it's, if you like, ancient history in some ways, it deals with the sort of things that everyone still deals with today. There are no differences in many ways between human beings who were alive in those days and human beings who are alive today. We have the same struggles, hopes, desires and dreams, and all of those are brought up in the story. So I'm hoping actually it'll be incredibly relevant to people as they watch.
And do you think there's kind of a sort of lack of knowledge about the kind of Bible and biblical text?
I think there probably is. I think that's possibly one of the motivations for me to do this. That people say that they know about the Bible, but I reckon once it's brought to life in this way, they'll get to know it in a completely new and fresh way.
And what were, obviously, apart from learning the thing, what were the biggest challenges involved?
Wow, that's a good question. I think the biggest challenge is the fact that you're doing it all by yourself, the fact that you're taking on all these different parts and characters, and you have to think about the accents, and you have to think about where you're going to be on stage, so to speak. And also, because it's just a one-man show, it's been great to have a lot of support along the way. So that, that's helped with that kind of challenge, the sense of you're quite isolated, but on the other hand, you've got people behind you who are thinking about you and encouraging you. That's been amazing.
And how do you kind of perform two different parts at the same time? How does that work?
It does. It depends on the actual scene, but generally what happens, I have to switch places. So if I'm one character in one speech, I have to move quite quickly to another location on stage to be the other character and simply face the open air where I once was. And it does actually work when you do that. You can even do it in threes, I've found, as well.
Gosh. And I mean, you said on stage, as it were, but actually you're going to be doing this kind of outside in parks. So they're kind of special locations in the park that are going to become the stage, or is it just going to be anywhere, just in the middle of some grass?
No, I'm going to be doing it on speakers' corners. So I've got 3 or 4 speakers' corners around the country that I'm going to, and they vary in what they're like. But the one I'm doing it in Hyde Park, for instance, is a bit of tarmac. I'll need to kind of rope off a certain section of that tarmac so it's clear that's where I'll be. And I do a lot of movement in the acting, so I'll need to use as much space as possible in that roped off area.
And kind of how long does it take, this whole thing, from beginning to end?
It takes about 1 hour and 55 minutes, maybe slightly less, but I'm going to take breaks because I don't think people who are passing by are necessarily going to be held for 1 hour and 55 minutes. I will take maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes at a time doing bits, one after the other.
Okay, and then you'll have sort of mini intervals, I suppose, for yourself.
Exactly.
And I mean, you were saying that you don't think people are going to be involved from beginning to end, necessarily watching the whole thing, so perhaps they'll be dipping in and out. How do you hope that people will respond to it?
I hope they'll just be caught up in the story. When I've done it before, that seems to be what happens. The most exciting thing as an actor that I've noticed as I've done this is that people are imagining what I'm not actually portraying. So if I'm talking to a character as if to the thin air, they can see that character. And I'm hoping there's going to be a similar response. I hope that the words themselves, which I think are incredibly powerful, will also hold the audience. I admit that it's in the open air and people are going to be passing by and some may not be interested at all. And that's fine. But I hope for a few there will be a really exciting adventure that they'll be joining me with.
Okay, and so you're doing a dress rehearsal in Southampton.
That's
just
right.
Briefly before we go, tell us about that.
That's in Hoglands Park. There is actually a speaker's corner in Hoglands Park. I didn't know that until...
Who knew?
Yeah, but there is one just opposite Debenhams, and on Sunday this week at 12 o'clock from noon onwards, I'll be doing a dress rehearsal, and it's kind of a workshop production just to see what it's like in the open air. I'm going to invite some people to come along to watch me, but also to heckle me as well, because when I'm at these speakers' corners, you do get the old heckler. So what I want to do is get plenty of practice to be able to how to deal with that sort of thing, how to deal with interruptions of that kind.
Well, it sounds absolutely terrifying. Are you not worried people can think you're mad?
Yeah, I think that's possibly going to happen. But on the other hand, I hope that the authenticity of the performance will be something that will speak for itself. I hope.
Well, Stefan, it's clearly something you're really passionate about, so I do wish you the best of luck with it.
Thanks very much indeed, Charlotte.